Students, in the earlier two videos we studied about the background of Palampur and factors of production. Today we shall learn about farming in Palampur. Even how the land area is said to be fixed, how is land used for agricultural purpose, what is done to get more yield from the field, and little about green revolution. As is the case with the most Indian villages, the main production activity in Palampur is farming or agriculture. Around 75% of working population of Palampur is engaged in farming. These include farmers and farm laborers. The welfare of the farming community totally depends on farm production. The more the production, happier are the farmers and the farm laborers. Now the question which arises is, how do we increase land production? And yes, there are two ways to do it: by increasing the land area under cultivation or by adopting new methods to grow more crops from the same land. Let's explore both these possibilities. Let's begin with the possibility of increasing land resource for production and cultivation. Remember, land is a limited resource. It's not just limited or needed for for growing crops, but also for building houses, industries, public spaces, schools, hospitals, etc. It is highly impossible or difficult to increase the land area under cultivation. So, I have mentioned here a few different uses of land and how it is used, and I have also told you that it is highly impossible or difficult to increase the land area under cultivation. So, the only way to increase land under cultivation is to convert wasteland into cultivable land. However, wasteland is also limited. So, this can increase land area marginally. A study shows that the land area increased marginally, I said repeat, it increased marginally from 1950 to 1970, that is during this period. But from 1970 to 2000, the land area remained unchanged. Now, thing to note, land area has to be measured in million hectares, and 1 hectare is equal to 10,000 square meters. So, like we have learnt, farming is the main activity in Palampur. All land is cultivated here, and remember, no land is left idle. So, now let's think about increasing crop production from the same land instead. I repeat, let us now think about how to increase the production of crop from the same land. Now, the question again is how? Of course, by multiple cropping and modern farming. I repeat, by multiple cropping or modern farming method. Now, we shall discuss on these topics in detail. Multiple cropping or multiple farming. It is the process of growing more than one crop on a piece of land during the year. Now, this system is adopted to increase production on a given piece of land. And this slide will show you how the process of farming has changed. There is one part of the slide which shows the traditional way of farming, and at the bottom you find the smart farming, that is the recent one, how AI is helping in farming. Now, remember, during the rainy season, the Kharif crop is grown, where jowar and bajra are the plants that are grown. And remember that these crops are also used as cattle field, and like I have pointed out in the box, these are grown, that is bajra and jowar are grown in the month of July, August and September, and they are also used as cattle feed or fodder. Now, after harvesting jowar and bajra on the same land, instead of leaving the land idle, what is grown is potatoes, and this happens between the period of October to December. So, I repeat, in the month of July, August, September, jowar and bajra. In the month of October to December, you have potatoes that are grown. So, now let us see in the next slide what is grown in the next month or in the coming months. So, in the coming months, that is between January and June, wheat is grown and harvested. Now remember, in most villages, a part of the land is also used to grow sugarcane, and sugarcane takes almost a year to grow. Later, sugarcane is directly sold, or sometimes the byproduct of sugarcane, that is jaggery or wood, is sold. So, in the period of 1 year, farmers have grown jowar, bajra, wheat, potatoes and sugarcane. I have mentioned all these 5 crops at the bottom of the slide, which will help you understand better. Now the question arises is, how is growing of 2 to 3 crops in a year possible? I repeat, how can the farmers grow 2 to 3 crops in a year? Well, the answer is very simple, because the farmers are not dependent on the rain, on the monsoon for irrigation. Rather, they are also not following the traditional method of farming. Okay. Now, the slide shows that they have started using electric run tube wells, which came into function. They are now able to irrigate large areas of land. Even the private tube wells, that is those people who are rich, they have now got tube wells dug or constructed, so that they can have access to water. And by mid 1970s, the entire cultivated area of 200 hectares was irrigated. Now coming to the next slide, this is what has happened because electricity reached everywhere, or because they have an access to electric power tube wells to irrigate their fields. They have now a well irrigation system that helps them reap good crops. Now you all must know that all villages across India are not as fortunate, as lucky as Palampur. You must remember that less than 40% of land is irrigated all over India, especially that is in the northern and coastal plains. But in Deccan Plateau, the farmers are dependent only on the rainfall for cultivation. So, the past decades have witnessed there is a run for using modern farming methods to increase production of yield. What did I say? That in the recent years, everyone is adopting the modern farming methods so that they can increase production of yield. Okay. So, let's note that farm production is measured in terms of yield. I repeat, when you are talking about the production of a crop, so what do? We measure it in terms of yield, which is the total quantity of crop produced on a piece of land in 1 year. I repeat, yield is the total quantity of crop produced on a piece of land in 1 year. Now, the next slide shows you how the traditional agriculture or farming was done. It is said that till 1960s, traditional farming was applied everywhere, or people used it. In this was involved the use of traditional seeds. Less irrigation methods were also in fashion or vogue. Then there was ample use of natural manure made of cattle dung. That is, they had no idea about the chemical pesticides and fertilizers. They completely depended upon the cattle dung and used it as a manure. Next point was, it was less expensive in terms of money. Moreover, the farmers did not have to buy many things like chemicals, fertilizers, etc. But point to be noted is that it produced a low yield or crop. What happened is, the end result, the yield that the farmer got was not much, it was low. So, in the 1960s, when Green Revolution was introduced, people started adopting modern farming methods. Now, what is this? According to this, farmers started using high yielding variety of seeds. They started using chemical fertilizers, advanced irrigation technology, rural electrification also came into help. They depended upon the soil testing and soil conservation, and they used modern machinery. This was possible, and because of this, that means the best part is that the yield increased. The greater amount of grains grew on a single plant. But this green revolution was successful for some crops only. I repeat, it did not apply for all the crops, especially the rice and pulses. Though the production of wheat increased manifold times, but the production of pulses did not change. This reminds me of the farmers in Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh. It is said that the farmers of these states were the first to implement or work or adopt modern farming. They were first to try out modern farming. In fact, they purchased tractors, threshers, chemical fertilizers, pesticides. They also purchased special high yield variety seeds, or the HYV seeds. They set up electricity run tube wells too, and the result was astounding. That means they got surplus production of wheat. Then the research also shows that the wheat grown using the traditional variety of seeds produced only 1300 kg per hectare. But on the other hand, when the farmers used the high yield variety seeds, per acre almost 3200 kg of wheat was grown or yield was produced. So, as a result, now the farmers started making surplus production of wheat. That means they found that they were left with enough of wheat, that is, after consumption they had enough of wheat left. So, that made them to sell it into the market. So, they started selling the extra wheat in the market, thus making a profit. Now, like every coin has two sides, Green Revolution too has its sad story to narrate. It brought about reduction in natural fertility of soil. There was destruction of soil structure. It brought about erosion and soil loss. It killed beneficial microbes and insects, caused depletion of groundwater, pollution of underground water, and contaminated the water sources. There are so many points. Just remember, in case there is a question pertaining to ill effects or disadvantages of what happened because of Green Revolution, you will be free to mention number of points needed. Now, what we must realize that modern farming is expensive. Why? Because the farmers have to purchase seeds, high yielding variety seeds, chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, and even the high electricity bills have to be borne by them. Moreover, the farmers have started to use large quantities of these, that is fertilizers and pesticides. Why? To achieve more production level. This also showed us the ill effects of Green Revolution. So, in the coming video, you shall learn more about land distribution in Palampur, need of capital, and who will provide the labor, etc. Thank you.